How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the 606. And if this isn't your first time over here hanging out with us, welcome back. I'm your host, as always, SES Vince, joined by my friend Basharat Ahmed. How's it going, man?
It's going well. A little bit of an unexpected car trouble, which isn't great, but you know what?
Uh,
I still managed to get in my prep work because last night, despite the car trouble, I made it out. I watched Supergirl, and I am ready with my thoughts. Let me know if you want to start with like an overall grade, or get into the details and the nitty gritty of it.
okay. Bosh, unfortunately, we're not here to talk about Supergirl. I haven't even gotten to go see it yet, man.
I misunderstood again, right?
Yeah, yeah, you missed the
Yeah,
assignment.
I keep doing that.
It's okay. It's okay. You didn't even bring the appropriate like comic book type of shirt. You brought an X-Men shirt. Not
Yeah,
Supergirl.
yeah. I mean, I figured because it was gonna kind of reflect my overall, ambivalence towards this movie
Right,
and
right.
a lack of positive reaction to it, unfortunately. But
Mhm.
I had that all planned out, but I'll pivot like always.
It's okay.
This stuff is harder than I thought. Really, I
No, no,
thought
it's
you could just
okay.
jump
X
in and
does not
record
mark
and
the spot
just
this
talk
time,
about
man.
your thoughts, and it turns out that just have not got this down.
No,
So
no, it's okay. We'll get there one day. We'll get there one day. But no,
eventually.
guys, we're actually here to talk about NBA trades. We had two big, technically three big trades, but we're gonna lump two of them together. In the association, we didn't really talk about it because we were focused on draft coverage. We did our live stream on the 606 and Wallet Media YouTube channels. By the way, that's my nice little segue to go ahead and follow us, subscribe to us, comment, like all that stuff at 606 Universe on YouTube and at Wallet Media Inc. at YouTube as well. Follow us on social media at 606 Universe everywhere. Go ahead and make sure you check out our content. Turn on bell notifications so you know when we drop a brand new episode like today's episode. We're talking NBA trades because I've been wanting to talk about this for a hot minute, and I kind of talked about this a little bit already with a few people, namely Rylan and Bosch and Bakley as well. So shout out to our friends that talk basketball with me. But I kind of want to dissect this on the episode, and we're gonna start with the big one, the big trade that everybody was anticipating. So it
That's
didn't.
right. Isaiah Joe to the Pistons. Huge, huge news.
No, no. Well, we're here to talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo being traded to the Miami Heat. Finally, Giannis is on the move. I have the trade details here for us, Bosch. It's Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bobby Portis are heading over to the Miami Heat. In return, the Milwaukee Bucks receive Tyler Herro, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Khalil Ware, Kasparas Yakashonis. Did I get that right?
Yep, you got it. Kasparas
Okay,
Yakashonis.
perfect. They received the 13th pick in the 2026 draft, which they used to select Nate Ament, a 2030
Who
first
we
round
predicted they would want.
swap. Say that again?
Who we had predicted the Bucks would want. Slightly
Yes,
higher, but
yes, yes.
yeah.
Uh, we'll unpack that a little bit more once we get out of the details. But 2030 round rights to swap with Miami, a 2031 unprotected first, a 2033 unprotected first, and a 2033 second rounder. So two unprotected picks late into the early 2030s, and a swap as well. First off, let's talk about Giannis's landing location being Miami South Beach. First off, we knew a Giannis trade was coming, Bosch. We just weren't sure as to when or where it would be, but we kind of had an idea it'd be this offseason, preferably before the draft, especially if the trade destination was going to be Miami. You know, they have the 13th pick. It's probably better to receive that pick before Miami uses it to select the player that Milwaukee may not want. And
Right.
yeah, first off, initial thoughts. How did you find out about the trade? What are your initial thoughts of the trade? And what do you think so far?
Yeah. It is. How do I put this? We're glad to finally have this long National Basketball Association nightmare over, right? Because it was
Yeah.
dragging on and on and on. It was kind of really getting tedious, and the denials and non-denials and the soft trade requests and the kind of like, "Meh, but I don't really want to go, but I want to stay, and we really want to keep him, but if he wants to go," and it just was getting really old. And so we're glad that's over. Really thought maybe it would be some more weeks of intrigue with other
Hmm.
like leaked trade proposals, like we were hearing from Boston and the Jaylen Brown, and whether or not they were going to up that package of Jaylen Brown and a pick, or to
Hmm.
include more or some young players. So on the one hand, it's nice to have this over. On the other, it's really annoying to me that this is Miami every fucking year, man, with every fucking player. Like, all
But
right,
they finally
and
got one this time,
they
at
did
least.
finally get one, so that's cool. On the other hand, what is this team? Because this leaves them with Bam Adebayo and Giannis. Now that's
Hmm.
gonna, you know,
That's gonna be good.
potentially, ideally, you would think that that's going to be a hellacious defensive combination.
Hmm.
Um, and then they have Davion Mitchell. I guess they still have Andrew Wiggins. They may or may not be able to bring back Norm Powell. They
Right.
are saddled with Bobby Portis for some reason. Well, because Milwaukee didn't want to keep that contract once they were no
No, no,
longer,
but Bobby Portis would be a good guy to have there to
in
not
Miami
only.
behind Bam and Giannis. I don't know, man. He's
No,
not.
no, I just meant like as a backup, like not necessarily play with them, but
No,
like
no,
to
as a
spell
backup
them
even,
minutes.
I suppose. I mean, he does bring a different element, which is nice out of your backup to,
Hmm.
because he's limited defense, offensive big, as opposed to the more
Right,
off
right.
defensively
I
oriented
mean, they could
Bam.
do like an offense defense type of thing.
Yeah.
I could see a
Although
world
I would say
where
Bam's offense is better than his
like
also, but
I guaranteed,
it's
yeah.
fine. It mostly, I think Bobby Portis being on the Heat with his $14 million contract presents an opportunity for an enterprising team from Chicago to swoop in and maybe see if there are any remaining assets in Miami that they can get in
I
order
don't think
for
there are,
taking on Bobby
honestly.
Portis. No, it doesn't seem like there are, but we'll see. Uh, Overall, I mean, this is not a terrible package. Just, I mean, it is not, there's no A level
Hmm.
talent, right? That they're
No,
getting. There's no like, oh my God, that's the guy. There's definitely no Shea Gilgeous Alexander type talent coming their way,
no,
right? In terms of the Bucks. But they've got a whole bunch of pretty good players and like potential shots with, Khalil Ware and
I like.
Yakashonis. And now they've got that pick. So they were able to pick Braden Burries with their own pick. And then they
Right.
get Nate Ament from the Miami pick. So, all right, you've got a couple of young guys. You've got some like medium rotation. I initially panned this trade in our live stream as like a bunch of middle of the rotation type of players, which
Hmm.
is true, but there is some more potential with some of them,
For sure.
particularly Kisper, Yakashonis and Ware, right?
Yeah. I mean, as a fellow as a fellow Mexican countryman, I would like to hope that there's more to Jaime Jaquez than what he's given us so
Yes,
far.
Jaquez and Hero are people I've left off of because I mainly don't view Jaquez or Hero, well, definitely not Hero,
Hmm.
but surprisingly even not Jaquez as part of the like future Bucks that the Bucks
Okay.
are betting on. Because
No,
to
I don't think
me,
so either.
I think a lot like Hero, what the Bucks would and should try to do is flip Jaquez as well, because I think he has more value as
Hmm.
like a young contributor on a budget contract,
Yeah.
to a team, a contender that may be trying to get out of an injured player contract or a bad contract, or
Hmm.
trying to do some sort of upgrade with dead money or whatever, and perhaps they can then get additional picks, which is what would make this trade a lot better, and which is why initially I had wanted them to do the Jaylen Brown package, because I thought they could get a lot more for Jaylen Brown
Right.
by flipping him to the Pistons, is what I was thinking. Now, I don't know what
Right.
the Pistons have left to trade, but he'd be a great fit in Detroit next to Cade, I
Yeah.
think.
I mean, they still have Detroit. That is have all their future firsts in their possession, so
And I
that's
would, yeah, I
definitely a
would
good.
think like if I was Milwaukee, I'd try to do it for like Asar, uh, Holland, and their firsts, right?
Yeah.
And I think that would be, and maybe I don't know, uh, like another, maybe some swaps first, maybe another young player.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
unfortunately, it did seem like it really just came down to Milwaukee and Boston, and as much
Miami
as
and
they
Boston, yeah.
Miami and Boston, sorry,
Yeah.
it came down to Miami and Boston, and I just don't think that Boston. I think like had they included one more player or one more pick, I think it would have gotten it done. I think they were just trying to squeeze the most they could out of
Yeah.
Boston. And then once it came close to draft time, they're just like, okay, well, we're going to take the Miami Heat pick because I think they squeezed way more out of the Miami Heat than initially was supposed to be reported to be the package
Yeah,
for in the
I
trade.
think the Celtics jumping in did what Milwaukee was hoping for in making Miami throw in the last couple of things that they may not have wanted to throw in,
Yeah.
whether that was Yakashonis or having to take on Bobby
I think it
Portis.
was Yakashon. I heard that it was Yakashonis as the final piece. That's like, okay, fine, we'll add Yakashonis, and then the
Right.
trade got done. And I think also too, this is also a made with selection with the mindset of, hey, if we just trade with Miami, it's just a straight up trade with Miami. We don't have to work in a third team. And I think with the Jaylen Brown situation with Boston, I don't think they would have kept him right away. I think they would have tried to like negotiate a three-team trade, obviously to
Yeah, but it wouldn't have
get,
been disastrous to keep him for a little while
no,
and then
no,
get
no,
something
I know,
else
but
down the
I
line.
think they just didn't want to have to deal with that period.
That's yeah, right.
I
Well,
think
we
they
know
just
they didn't because reporting says that in their very, very unique and uniquely strange ownership situation, rotating 5-year governors from
yeah,
amongst their owners. Um, the Haslam, the current uh, controlling owner, I don't know what I guess
yeah, I
of
don't
the
know.
Bucks,
Yeah,
who also has the what is it, the Browns. Um, did not want to relive his NFL trade nightmares and therefore did not want to deal with having to, an unhappy Jaylen Brown and having to go through this again. And
right.
that was a contributing, not just a contributing, but maybe the decisive factor in
Probably,
Milwaukee
yeah.
moving,
Yeah,
from what it
because
seems like.
any trade involving the Boston Celtics wasn't going to be a straight up trade anymore. I think everything was going to look into being working in the third team, and the two candidates for that were the Clippers at 5 in this year's draft, and the Atlanta Hawks at 8. And the way I looked at it was, can we include those teams in there? No, they don't want to be part of it. Maybe they didn't want Jaylen Brown. Maybe they decided to just test their luck with whoever they drafted at 5 and 8, respectively. And from there, they decided, okay, well, now it's going to be Boston and Miami. Yeah, I think it just kind of became a thing where, like, okay, well, we just kind of want to like give ourselves a couple hours to kind of like figure out who we want to take besides Niederman, because it felt like they were doing their own research. And yeah, I think they just kind of wanted to get it over with, probably too, so they can get started with their offseason and focus on the draft and focus on restructuring their team and unloading some players that they don't want on the roster anymore, and namely Kyle Kuzma and Miles Turner.
Yeah.
So overall, though, I don't know what this means for Miami. I do kind of like the defensive potential of a lineup that includes a Giannis Antetokounmpo, Bam Adebayo. You mentioned Norman Powell. Uh, Originally wasn't going to be someone that the Heat were going to retain, but now they desperately need, especially like not having much shooting around Bam and Giannis. You have Davion Mitchell obviously at the point, but that's kind of crazy. That's kind of like now they're starting point guard.
Yeah.
Which I like Davion Mitchell.
I
I just
mean,
don't know. I just don't
he
know
did a
if he's
decent
there
job
yet. I just
in
don't know if
the
he's there yet.
yeah, he did a decent job as get once given the reins and then the play-in games, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um, going back to Milwaukee real quick, another part of this is that they don't have their own picks.
They don't.
So what you want to do in the new lottery system is not be a bottom three team if you have your own pick,
Hmm.
because being a bottom three team now actually lowers your draft odds, lowers
Right.
your
You
draft
want
odds
to
of
get
getting
to
a high
that
pick.
4 to 10 range. That's the sweet
Right.
spot now.
Yeah, and but they don't have their own picks, so it doesn't matter to them. So
Hmm.
they can go ahead and completely tank, and they can try to flip Hero, despite he does have a very large contract, so that's going to need to be a creative thing.
Hmm.
Whether this is somehow to Detroit or Denver or LA or wherever, right?
Hmm.
But they can flip Hero. I think they can get a decent amount for Jaime Jaquez, who makes just under 6 million, I think, or right around
Hmm.
$6 million a year. A very versatile sort of wing who could really help out a contender, so that they can get more picks there. That'll be nice.
Right.
Um, and yeah, I think that overall, that's a decent job for them. Now, for Miami, like you said, their roster is pretty barren.
Hmm.
It's like we ran through. It's Davion Mitchell. It's whether they decide to bring back Norm Powell, and if they can,
Hmm.
it's Andrew Wiggins. It's Bam Adebayo, Giannis, Bobby Portis, and Nikola Jovic, who fell out of the rotation after being given a decent extension.
Right.
So yeah, if Miami does have any assets left, do you think trying to give them an upgrade in that salary spot of
Hmm.
Nikola Jovic or Bobby Portis should be able to squeeze whatever remaining assets they have out of that stone? That would be nice. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess this was preferable to them for where they were of like stuck in the middle sort of team with okay young talent and good veterans, but nothing super promising on the horizon. So now at least they've got two stars, two really impactful, high level impactful players in Bam and Giannis, and a couple of
Hmm.
complementary pieces, and they can see if Pat Riley can work his magic to fill it in around the edges.
So it looks like the Tyler Hero contract is just a 1 year deal and expires after the season.
I think that might be a player option though. Let me see.
It could be a player option, but even if it is a player option, it shouldn't be too difficult to move. So okay, to unpack what I was saying with the Miami Heat, I like the defensive potential. Davion Mitchell's there. You have Giannis. You have Bam
I take it
Adebayo.
back. You're right though. He's a unrestricted free agent
Yeah,
next
so
year.
so
So
it's actually a really good contract. Now they picked it up in the final year. They
yeah.
can kind of like let him play out the first couple of weeks to months of the season. If some team before the trade deadline or at the deadline wants him, you can probably get something and flip him there. I pointed at Detroit to be that team. They just picked up Isaiah Joe for 2 second-round picks.
Hmm.
Fantastic trade for them. I like Isaiah Joe being an addition to that Detroit Pistons backcourt. So maybe Tyler Hero isn't an option, but then again, he could very well be another option because there's no such thing as too many ball creators or
Yeah, and I
scorers
think if
on
you
your
want to be
team.
a contender, having Isaiah Joe as a bench contributor is preferable,
Yeah,
as
so
a rookie.
that could very well be a thing where like Detroit kind of waits a couple weeks to a month to like see what they have with Isaiah Joe and then assess whether they need more or what have you, and then kind of go from there. So
Yeah.
yeah, so Miami can definitely go ahead and like talk with Wiggins. Maybe he can opt out of his deal because it is an option, and they can restructure his contract similar to what they did with Trey Young and the Washington Wizards, where he opted out, became a free agent. They restructured the contract before he hits free agency, and doing that will allow Miami to go ahead and give Norman Powell kind of like
Hmm.
what he's looking for. Maybe at a 2 year deal, maybe 3 year with the third year being the player option. Now you're looking at a starting lineup of Mitchell, Norman Powell, Andrew Wiggins, Giannis, and Bam Adebayo. And if you look at that they're not in that first tier of teams, but they're in that second tier of teams. I think that first tier, obviously for me, is Boston, New York, and Indiana.
I think
May
Detroit. Yeah.
and Detroit, those are the top four teams. I think those are definitely in the top tier. Then you go into that second tier where we have a team like the 76ers, Cavaliers, and that's where Miami falls is in that
Yeah.
second tier where
I'd
they
agree with
still
that.
need one or two more things. So, I mean, Miami had to do something. I feel like they had to do something in general. If not, they should have just blown up the whole thing. And if you're Milwaukee, you just kind of wanted to get this over with. In terms of what Milwaukee is getting, let me just bring it up again. They use their 10th pick on Braden Burries. They use the Miami Heat's pick on Native Ment. So you have a project guy that you can develop. And I like this as a really good landing spot for Native Ment. And we'll talk about this more when we talk about the draft. And then you include a guy like Khalil Ware. Like I still like him, Jaime Jaquez, and he doesn't have a huge cap hit as well on your roster. So that kind of is good. Tyler Herro, he's the Wisconsin native, so he's coming back home. So you can kind of like put that on billboards and you can like sell that to your fan base for like the first couple of months leading into the trade deadline. If not, just flip them because they are listening to stuff for Tyler Herro. I don't love the trade return for Milwaukee, but it's not the worst thing I've
It's not
seen.
it's not terrible, and I think those draft picks being in
Could
the
turn out to be really
2030s.
good.
Yeah, I mean, it at least down the road, it gives them, if they're not able to make this a quick rebuild, at least
Yeah.
gives them a lot more hope, at the end of the runway, maybe.
Yeah,
when
for
they
sure.
should also have their own picks back as well.
Yeah, so we'll see how this goes. I don't think it makes Miami a championship contender. I think it just elevates them from playing team to top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference, barring injuries. Because like the teams that I mentioned, there's 3 teams in that next tier. If you don't include a team like Orlando, I think it's just going to depend on injuries who gets those 2 locks and who becomes a playing team.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
it'll suck for Miami if you did all this just to end up in the play-in again in
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
exact spot. They
Yeah.
might actually get out of the play-in, and we'll see what happens. But Milwaukee again, they got their guys. They got a
And then when
steal.
they're getting the Miami picks down the road, because it was what, 2030 is the first one, I think. Is that right?
2030 is a swap, I believe. Let
Yeah,
me
2030 is a swap. Then they get
yeah.
2031 and 2033, which is cool because 2032 and 2033 is when they have their own picks as well. So,
Yeah,
you know,
so
yeah, if the short-term rebuild doesn't work out, the long-term rebuild at least is still
I,
a possibility.
yeah, and they're a couple years away. I mean, again, it just really depends on what teams want. Like, if is someone like Atlanta? Are you interested in Miles Turner?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you need a
gonna,
center. Like the stuff that you got in the draft not work out for you. You want a center. At Lakers, you guys always like to go fishing for centers. Do you guys want Miles Turner? Stuff like that. We'll see. Kyle Kuzma could be someone that a team might take a chance on. Uh, it's not a smart thing. I mean,
well, again, if they take
Minnesota
back
now
worse
needs.
money, if they
Yeah,
take back worse money in
yeah.
exchange for Kuzma, since Kuzma's got only this year left, then they can get assets out of that. They'll have to be creative. There's, small market teams
Mhm.
uh, have these sort of, they have to commit to sort of a longer rebuild,
Yeah,
right? They
yeah.
don't have the kind of quickie options as often, the way Oklahoma City did when they lucked out with having Paul George to fleece the Clippers with. But yeah, and
That
then
trade
also
looks
being,
crazy in hindsight now, man.
yeah, but they had an asset that they were able to really, put the squeeze on the
Mhm.
Clippers for, and then they also got stuff for Westbrook and then Paul, and then they did all their smart moves. So Milwaukee's gonna either try to pull off similar very, very smart moves by doing that sort of thing,
Mhm.
by trading, whether it's Kuzma or Hero for worse money to take back
Right.
worse money. That
Yeah.
could really work out for them to get them faster, a faster rebuild with better picks. But if they're
Mhm.
not able to do that, then in the longer term rebuild, they can see what they've got with the young guys now, build them up, build their trade value, and maybe flip them again, and really have an eye towards the early 2030s.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a very long time frame for Bucks fans to look at. Could be depressing, but
Listen,
you
by
know,
by by then Nate Ament might
yeah,
actually like fully develop. You
exactly,
might so like
exactly.
here's the thing. Like you have something solid, and again, we'll talk about this in the draft. Like you got something solid in the draft, and you got a project in the draft. So
Hmm.
there's stuff there. It's not horrible. You could have gotten something better if you traded Giannis maybe a year ago, but he was so wishy-washy as to whether or not he was going to stay. I
Yeah,
think they messed up last year by waiving and stretching out Damian Lillard's contract to try to get Miles Turner, and now they have to try to get rid of Miles Turner, and then they're gonna have that Damian Lillard like cap hit for these next couple of years. So that's unfortunate for that. I think that was a horrible offseason. This is a better offseason for the Bucks, and all they really have to do is just kind of like let's see who we can unload before the season starts and see what assets we can get, and then just kind of go from there.
yeah,
Honestly,
yeah.
yeah. Let's move on. We were talking about Kuzma potentially being a trade target for some teams that might need a power forward. The team that's gonna definitely need a power forward because they traded theirs is the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they were active. So before the Giannis trade, I thought this was going to be the big trade we were going to talk about. We had a 3-team trade involving our Chicago Bulls where they received Nic Claxton. The Minnesota Timberwolves receive help me out with the name here.
Mohamed Gay.
That him uh, a 2026 second round pick, the 33rd pick in this year's draft via Brooklyn, and then the Brooklyn Nets were going to receive Julius Randle and the Minnesota Timberwolves 28th pick in the draft. So that happened right before the Giannis trade, and I thought that was going to be the big trade that we were going to discuss because it involved our Chicago Bulls. And I was just kind of like curious as to what the hell Minnesota was doing. Then right after that, they announced the extension for Io DeSumo, 5 years, 112 million. Which shout out to Io, like getting paid, he
Oh yeah,
deserves it.
congrats, Io.
Yeah, he deserves it
Very
all.
happy for him.
However, that's not the only thing Minnesota did, and we're going to lump all this together and talk about all four of these teams all simultaneously. The other thing that they just did yesterday morning, um, the graphic is completely wrong. Just pretend that all the all the picks that are there are going over to the Hornets instead. So the Minnesota Timberwolves traded Nas Reed and a bunch of draft swaps in 2028 and 2033. Uh, Actually, no, their 2033 pick is unprotected. They got a swap sent in 2029 and 2030, and then a bunch of second round picks in
Yep.
exchange for Josh Green, who's on an expiring contract, and LaMelo Ball from the Charlotte Hornets. It's crazy to think that this kind of happened at the tail end of the second round on Wednesday,
Yeah.
where Shams was talking about how like there's growing like rumors and rumblings that the Charlotte Hornets are fielding offers for LaMelo Ball, and we're like, what the hell is this? Are they just doing this just to try to get some views for the second round because they split it up into two nights and nobody tunes in to the second round on ESPN? And we're like, okay, well, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't happen, because they did the same thing last year at the trade, at the draft, I should say, around the draft about Giannis, and it took a whole year to get that going. And then obviously I saw online, I was trying to keep up with it, to the teams that were linked to LaMelo Ball were the Toronto Raptors from Wallet Media. So shout out to Wallet Media. You guys almost got LaMelo Ball. Uh, and the Minnesota Timberwolves, which actually like nailed down a contract, a trade for it. It cost them Nas Reed and unprotected first, and then multiple seconds and swaps. They got LaMelo Ball in Minnesota to pair up with Anthony Edwards. They just re-signed Io DeSumo. They still have, still got Rudy Gobert. Like, first off, let's talk about like I want to know what your thoughts were when you saw the initial 3-team trade before the draft, the night before the draft, and then what your thoughts were when you finally found out that LaMelo Ball got traded.
I mean,
And
initially
before we unpack
disappointing
it,
that they were looking to shed salary so quickly for a team that has been to 2 conference finals into the second round after that, and that the new ownership group of Alex Rodriguez and Mark Laurie, that they weren't
mm-hmm.
committed to really continuing to build with Ant Edwards, and just looking to stay kind of minimally competitive while trimming salary, because
Yeah,
that's certainly what it seemed like. But on the other hand, I thought, what, it might be smart to try to get out ahead of this a little bit, maybe endure a couple of down years at the tail end of Gobert's contract, and then
mm-hmm.
retool for a second roster rebuild, around Ant. That's what I thought they were doing,
Right,
is positioning themselves to rebuild a new roster around Ant, about 2 years down the line.
mm-hmm.
But then, of course, the Ball thing happens, and now they've reunited the two players who should have been the top 2 picks, not
Mm-hmm.
of that draft.
Yeah,
Everybody knew Wiseman was not, it's a number 1 and number 3 picks, but
yeah,
everybody except Golden State knew that LaMelo and Ant thought that LaMelo and Ant, wrongly, it turns out in hindsight, but at the time thought that LaMelo and Ant were the top 2 talents in that
yeah.
draft. Um,
Shout out Golden State for fucking up that whole draft.
yeah, yeah.
We can't really talk because we weren't much better.
No, I mean, but it turns out in hindsight that Halliburton was in that draft, and that's
It's even
team
worse.
should have gone with that route. However, they are reuniting picks 1 and 3, onto the
Mm-hmm.
same team. The debated who should go number 1, if people think back to that draft, which is
Yeah.
kind of cool. And Lamelo's a little underrated on how good he really has been,
Mm-hmm.
because he did drag that Charlotte team to the play-in a couple times, over his career. One time, maybe a little bit, or much, not maybe, but like definitely much earlier than people expected. And
Mm-hmm.
then he also has his drawbacks and his shot selection and his kind of like decision making and that like terrible foul that should have gotten him ejected from that play-in game where he like reached out and
Oh,
just
yeah,
injured Bam really.
yeah.
And that so and then his let's leave his his ability to drive to the basket is pretty good, but his other driving abilities leave something to be desired. So we will, leaving that aside, uh, it is a big need that Minnesota had. Ant was getting double, triple teamed,
Hmm.
crossing half court.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was nobody else, and there's, you're forcing Io and Jaden McDaniels into much larger ball handling roles. I mean, they did outperform expectations, but that only really got them to a somewhat slightly competitive second round exit,
Hmm. Yeah.
against the Spurs. And this now gives them a legit, second on ball creator that if you now decide to throw a double triple team in Ant, in theory, LaMelo Ball should be able to carve you up.
Oh,
Also,
yeah.
for the current NBA offense, these guys are going to be launching just between the two of them like 23 pointers a game. Each of them is going to be launching 10 threes a game. I mean,
Yeah.
that Boston
Yeah.
Celtics style, that's going to be just
Exactly.
tilt the overall numbers in their favor in terms of offensive, production. So that is kind of a new age offense that they're going to lean into. And then you think that you still have Rudy Gobert behind them, and Ant himself is a pretty decent defender, and you've got Jaden McDaniels and Ayo
Yeah.
DeSumo. So you maybe have the defensive wherewithal to back up Lamelo's defensive deficiencies, and also that
Yeah.
was actually, if you talk about Toronto, that was one reason why the Raptors, if they had pursued him, this actually would have been a pretty decent fit because the Raptors defensively would be capable of kind of, covering up for
Masking.
LaMelo. Yeah,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
CMB and also
It would also
uh,
be the most
Barnes.
exciting player that they've had in Toronto that they would in the hot minute. Like I get
Oh yeah,
Scotty Barnes is fun, but like he doesn't bring the star power as the Lamelo Ball. And here's the thing: I'm not the biggest Lamelo Ball guy. Like actually, now that I think about it, I'm pretty much a very harsh critic of his. I don't I wouldn't personally want him on my basketball team, but I'll tell you this, man. On the court together, LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards, along with like a guy like Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels, and Ayo DeSumo, are going to be fun to watch. They're going to definitely be a league pass team if you want to get a free trial. They're definitely a team you should check out during that free trial. Heck, if they come out with a new NBA Streets or NBA Jam
yeah, that'd be a
game,
dream pairing.
LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards would be a very good dynamic duo. This just kind of feels like back in the day when they paired up paired up like two superstars together, like KG with like Marbury, or
Marbury, yeah.
yeah, stuff
Well,
like that.
what's interesting is I think Ant is exactly who LaMelo Ball should have alongside him because Anthony Edwards is the type of guy who has shown already, that
Hmm.
he is so competitive and he is going to be hard on his teammates when they are messing up,
Yeah.
including hard on himself. Though,
Hmm.
he doesn't just go after his teammates, but he's extremely competitive, and you think that will help tone down some of LaMelo's, you know, more his indiscretions on the court anyway,
Hmm.
let's say.
Yeah. No,
His
for sure.
on-court discretions should be toned down because Ant was going to let him hear it if LaMelo is taking those terrible
That's
shots or
very true.
just making unnecessary turnovers or anything like that, or having a wide open layup and then running out to the 3-point line,
Hmm.
that sort of deal. So yeah, I think it's a good pairing. And again, Minnesota, all right, props. This was creative. The thing is, they went from having way too many bigs and not knowing whether how they're going to fit in playing time for Nas Reed and whether it was Cat or Randall and Gobert and
Hmm.
you know
Or
uh
or
sorry.
McDaniel's,
Yeah,
Reed,
yeah, and
Gobert,
but to
Cat.
now they really only have Gobert and Jan Beringer if he comes along. I mean, the kid's still a teenager, so I
Yeah.
don't know if he's going to be
I
quite
mean,
ready.
Julian Phillips is on there if they pick up the team option.
But regardless of that, Julian Phillips and Jaden McDaniels, these guys are slight. Like they can play power forward, for they
Yeah, but
can.
they were mm,
They may have the height. They don't have the bulk to play
yeah,
power forward on a consistent basis.
they
I don't
might
think.
rely on hoping some veterans like take the vet minimum for playing time, or like I don't know who would be that guy, but like for instance, like I'm thinking of guys like Anthony Simons, a guy that might take less money to go to Miami to get playing time, rebuild his stock in the eyes of the league, and then cash out big in the summer 2027. Maybe there's a big out there that fits that similar type of profile. I don't know who that'd be, but I mentioned Kyle Kuzma. Hey, Milwaukee, if I'm Milwaukee, I was like, hey, do you want Kyle Kuzma? Like you guys need a power forward, front court depth. Maybe there's something they can work out. Like maybe they take back the contract of Dante DiVincenzo, who's not going to be playing, who's just a dead contract, and that's an expiring contract for Milwaukee. So, and then maybe you can get some sort of asset in return. I'm not sure what that would be again, but that's just something like off the top of my head based off of what we saw with Milwaukee's roster. Or maybe this is a team that you look at Miami and was like, hey, do you want Bobby Portis? He can play power forward for you. Will it be a good fit? No, but like you don't need to think about that. Just take Bobby Portis off our hands. I don't know. There's some I don't know what the options would be, but definitely need to address the power forward spot. During the regular season, I'm gonna enjoy them. I'm gonna see how far they go. I'm a little hesitant to kind of like back a LaMelo Ball team in the playoffs, considering we haven't seen it. So I have to see what LaMelo and Anthony Edwards bring to the table. But on
Yeah, I
paper,
mean,
I kind
what
of
I
like.
would do is if the Bulls have a pretty cost-effective option that I think would fit really well now that Minnesota doesn't have Reed or
Do
Randall.
not sit here and offer Patrick Williams, man.
No, Jill. Well, no. To they should do Patrick Williams, but to take back like horrible salary. Like
Right.
I was going to leave this for our Bulls pod, but I'm just going to throw it out there since we're on the topic real quick. I would say like if I'm putting Patrick Williams in there, it would be to take back like Paul George plus like that Clippers pick. That the that
I
the
like that.
unprotected Clippers pick that the
Yeah.
Sixers own, and maybe one more because there's about like a 35
Yeah.
$35 million difference in their salaries.
Yeah.
So I definitely I would take that Clippers pick though, and give them, now you're cutting down from a $52 million contract to a $19 million
Hmm.
contract with maybe one more year than PG, but you're saving $35 million a year. I would take that Clippers unprotected pick for that. But no, I would say what the Timberwolves could use is like somebody like Jalen Smith, kind of guy who could play power forward center but stretch the floor.
Yeah. I like
The
that.
huge net rating monster, huge positive in net rating while he played. He can
Mhm.
now he does play, he's injured a bit, so he plays a little bit less. He's kind of, but if you want to play him behind Gobert
Well,
or, as spot minutes, is backing up kind of McDaniels the
mhm.
four, I think that'd be a great fit. That's the type of player that Minnesota maybe can still get. They do have the DiVincenzo contract and they still have draft picks. Now they got frozen because they're in the second apron. If they stay
Mhm.
out of the second apron 2 of the next 3 years, it'll be unfrozen. But even if it stays as a frozen late first round pick, they do still have their own picks in 2032 and 2033.
Yeah.
So far out, but that might be something you can pair with, DiVincenzo's kind of dead salary for the year, and maybe
Yeah, you
get
can
something
kind
back.
of see what you can get there for sure. Because listen, I think if they can't find anyone, I think they'll look for someone. They'll look for
Yeah,
someone that can play that starting forward spot, and even if it's just for 5 minutes. Kind of like be the Keith Bogans for like 10 minutes to start the game and 10 minutes to close the game. Just not close the game, start the third. For all my Bulls fans out there, you guys will get the reference. Maybe something like that. But I think this closing lineup is going to be McDaniels with Gobert, Desumu, Ball, and Anthony Edwards. I don't hate it as a closing lineup. I don't like it with certain matchups because you saw what happened with the San Antonio Spurs when they had three guards and a wing playing next to their center, and their center's not as good as San Antonio center. So we'll see. I don't hate it. I kind of like you would say you were saying. I kind of would have wished they would have done something where they wait like 2-3 years. They start building to what the team could be like in 2-3 years to like build a new era around Anthony Edwards. Similar to what the Lakers did with Kobe Bryant, like post Shaq era. They went ahead and like built that Paul Gasol, Derek Fisher, Lamar Odom team with Kobe in 2008 through 2011. That's what I would have ideally done, but it is what it is. In terms of Charlotte, I'm not sure what they're doing. They got Christian Anderson in the draft. They re-signed Kobe White as well, and they got Con Canepo. They got
Yeah, this is not a great return for LaMelo Ball. On the other
No,
hand, LaMelo Ball, after another year, I think would be extension eligible.
I think they were
This was
just trying to get away from that,
the
honestly.
healthiest he's been in years. He has his moments kind of that concern you both on and off the court in terms of
Hmm.
decision making. And they were probably thinking that they want to sell high here on LaMelo Ball. And while it doesn't seem that it's that high, they do have, a stopgap for now in Kobe White available.
Yeah.
That's why they drafted another guard. They've got, and so now all of a sudden there are options for Charlotte. Now, you think maybe they lowered their ceiling here, but again, maybe they're thinking to kind of build out something more long term, and it's excusable. It's not great.
Hmm.
I don't think when you look at it, considering that this is a team that had like this monster net rating with Lamelo and Brendan Miller and Con Knipple all on the floor together. But
Yeah.
they've got now they've gotten out of LaMelo Ball, possibly avoiding future injury concerns or
Right.
performance concerns, and they can now kind of focus more on the Knipple and Brandon Miller future along with their upcoming draft picks.
Okay.
And I do
Yeah.
want to say also on Minnesota, real quick. Like,
Hmm.
remember, because the reason I thought it was a pivot point is Rudy Gobert is like what 33, going to be
Yeah.
34.
Yeah.
He's coming up with another year left. Like his effectiveness, that there is a limited time frame on that, but you got to kind of give them, applaud them, or give them some plaudits for not going that luxury tax cutting route,
Hmm.
and instead deciding that no, every year that we do have Anthony Edwards, we are still going to try to compete. Again,
Yeah.
it's
Because
interesting the way they put the roster together now, going from too many bigs to not enough bigs, but there is still a way for them to play, and there is still a
yeah,
way for them to compete.
there's definitely some maneuvering they can do. But honestly, I would say when they did make the Karl Anthony Towns trade to New York for Randall, that was cost cutting move. But that was the old ownership prior
Yeah.
to making that trade. So I mean, I'm pretty sure the current people running the Timberwolves probably wouldn't have made that trade. They probably would have tried to rework that whole roster and figure out a way to make it work because they made the conference finals with that roster and then decided to flip their second best player in Karl Anthony Towns and look, he won the championship 2 years after that. So
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the time, if you think back to our pod, I thought the trade helped them, Minnesota, in terms of depth for the regular season, but I thought that it lowered their ceiling. And I thought
yeah,
that,
agreed.
yeah, so that was
I,
that.
I'll I'll say this that the trade definitely raised the ceiling for the Timberwolves. It just made their roster not fit and make sense as much as it did prior. You know, so I mean, there'll be options. Obviously, there might be something they can do, and then find that four, and then just slide them in there. Like maybe they're an Aaron Gordon destination. Maybe they're a Cam Johnson destination. I have no idea who could be out there. I'm not going to sit here and try to speculate on that. But hey, at least they got Julian Phillips. He can play some for. I like him. in terms of
He's a rotation player at
yeah,
least.
in terms of what Brooklyn did, I'm trying to figure out. I mean, they got the 28th pick in the draft, and
And they moved up 5 spots,
yeah,
so okay, I guess.
I just and then now they take on Julius Randle's contract. You give up on Nic Claxton. Like I'm trying to figure out what the motive here is. What Julius Randle, Michael Porter Jr., and Mikael Brown Jr. Like that's your team. Like
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Igor
I mean, I
Deming.
guess they were really wanted to move up 5 spots in the draft. I don't know, man. That to me, I agree. I don't know if that was really enough for me to do this, but it's not terrible going. I mean, going from Claxton to Randall. Maybe Randall will have some
I
some
mean, they
flip
don't have their
value,
pick next year, so
right?
they don't have any incentive to be bad.
Or decent, as now the incentive is supposed to be like,
yeah,
yeah, not,
yeah,
not
or decent or whatever, competent.
yeah.
Because they got, let's see, I'm trying to look at their pending roster. Porter Jr., who is a free agent after this contract, so maybe you can flip him on an expiring a team that might be desperate to receive that. Then you have Julius Randle, and he has an option as well. And after this season, I believe that is a player option for 35 mil, almost 36. You have Terrence Mann on the roster, Igor Deming, uh, Zaire Williams, and Day'Ron Sharp are also team options. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what they're doing in Brooklyn. I mean, I don't fucking know. But
I
they
mean,
got
it's
the
fine, I guess. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't really have a great like projection for this as to like a reasoning as to why it works out
Hmm.
for making this swap. I mean, again, other than moving up the 5 spots, but unless you were you cleanly getting a future pick, I don't know that I would have done it as
Like how much? How
Brooklyn.
much? How much did you really like Joshua Jefferson to move up to
That's what I'm saying. It was them. I guess they liked him a lot. I don't know. To add, yeah, $10 million in salary, get older.
Is
You know,
Josh like? I'm also just trying to figure out if Joshua Jefferson was the dude that they were trying to target with 28.
yeah, that's a good point. I can't remember exactly when that trade happened, but I think it was
It
close.
happened.
Usually
It
those.
happened. It happened the night before the draft, so it
Oh,
happened
that's
Monday.
right. That's
It
right.
happened
Yeah.
Monday.
So, interesting. So yeah, they
Maybe they
really
were
did think
hoping that someone was going to be there in that range,
maybe, or at least they really did think that going from Claxton to Randall wasn't a big deal, and going up 5 spots
but
in
now
the
they need
draft
a
was
center,
worth it.
don't they?
I suppose.
Miles
Uh,
Turner, Milwaukee is looking to unload centers. Uh,
I think we'll have to see what Brooklyn does in free agency here
yeah,
to really
they
to
do still
really
got cap space.
they have a little bit of cap space. They'll have their
Austin Reeves
mid-level.
is off the market. Maybe they're a Jalen Duren team that's going to try to address that way. I think maybe if you're Brooklyn, you just kind of like traded for Randall because you're like, okay, well, we're kind of done with the Nic Claxton situation. The big free agent targets that we're going to target are center, so we don't really need to target that. Let's address power forward. You have Michael Porter Jr., you have Julius
I mean, they still have
Randle,
Day'Ron Sharp. Maybe they want to
Day'Ron
give him.
Sharp.
Yeah,
You have you have your rookie selections in Joshua Jefferson and Mikael Ron Jr. Maybe you're like, okay, well, we just need a center. Let's address that in free agency, and then we can be a play-in team. Because honestly, if I'm Brooklyn, just give me fun basketball. Since I'm not gonna have my draft pick. You know, if I'm a fan, I'm just like, just give me fun basketball. Maybe that's what they're doing. I don't fucking know. Uh, they look good on 2K. And 2K, they'd be a really good team.
well, I mean, and also, maybe they think having Randall helps develop their young guards more, because Randall has more of an offensive game. So maybe they think they can kind of give their young guards
Yeah.
another offensive option, whereas Claxton was really just a defensive option, and his defense
Hmm.
falling down for quite a while also, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I mean,
So
we can talk about the Brooklyn Nets later, but
yeah,
the final piece to this whole trade thing was the Chicago Bulls just absorbing Nic Claxton's contract, just being a destination somewhere for that contract to go, and the Bulls kind of like addressed their center situation as well, and for much less than they would have cost to go after a guy like Walker Kessler or a Jalen Duren or even a Isaiah Hardenstein, who I wouldn't have mind. And they got him a reasonable contract that's declining for the next 2 years. So, I mean, it is what it is. The Bulls just kind of like got something for nothing. So I'm not mad about that. I I think we should just talk about the Bulls stuff on its own separate episode, just because we are two Bulls fans. We shouldn't unpack
yeah,
that
we could
there.
save that. I mean, I'll just
Let's
say
milk this episode if we
yeah.
let's milk this episode.
Overall, I'm just like, I'm not very enthused by the move. I mean, Claxton, sure, you got him for free, but I wouldn't be into roster construction. Is not my concern if I'm the Chicago Bulls, and I'll leave the
Mhm.
details for when we talk about the Bulls.
Yeah, yeah, definitely for sure. All right, man. Well, I think this is a perfect way to sign off on this episode. It's a little bit shorter, but we're going to be bringing you guys 3 episodes back to back in relatively short time. So I figured, why not? I think it'd be okay. Bosh, where can people find you if they want to talk hoops?
You can, as always, hit me up on Blue Sky. I'm at systemlords.bsky.social, and happy to talk hoops, comic books, whatever else.
Yep, yep. You can follow me at SES Vince on all social medias. We can talk hoops there. You can follow the show at 606 Universe on all social medias, and especially on YouTube. Go ahead and check us out wherever audio podcasts can be found. We are on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Wait, Google Podcasts is not a thing anymore. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, among many. And like I said, the video option of the show is always on YouTube, on 606 Universe on YouTube, and Wallet Media Inc. on YouTube as well. So yeah, go ahead and check us out. We're going to be right back talking about the draft and the Chicago Bulls specific. So spread the love and milk these episodes as much as we can. So for Basharat and myself, we'll see you guys on the next one. Later, y'all.
Peace.